according to TC, at 91.2 FM radio, Flint, Michigan. Today I have a guest. My guest is Mr. Marcus Brown. He is a Marine. We are.
Closer to the microphone, please.
He's a Marine, and he's also a school teacher, a principal. He's been a principal, school teacher, and right now he's an urban farmer. He has a farm in the city of Flint, and he's growing a lot of things out there. I met him last year, and when I was wondering about what was going on out there, and all the stuff the soil was being tilled, and I just wanted to see what was going on out there. Mr. Brown, what is a chest frog farm?
Chest Frog Farms is the name of the farm that my wife, Chief Tropillium, and I started about 3 or 4 years ago. We came to Flint, and we bought 8 acres of land altogether, and we started planting fruit trees. We started planting everything from apples, cherries, peach, nectarine. We have some Michigan pecans growing out there, and we decided to name the farm Chest Frog Farms. Chest Frog's kind of a pet name that I gave the students in my class, because all the kids in my class learned how to play chess, and frogs are kind of like the favorite animal of mine. We also have frogs on the farm, believe it or not, and quite a few chess boards, so that's where the name Chest Frog comes from, and that's a designation for the farm. It is a USDA designated farm also.
Okay. Why are you and your wife planting fruit trees?
Well, there is a major water crisis, as everyone knows, here in Flint, but there's also a food desert crisis here in Flint. You go to some of the major stores, grocery stores here in Flint, and you might have some dated food, or you might have some overpriced food. A lot of people don't have transportation and can't make it out to Myers or Walmart, where you can get a better deal on things, from everything from tomatoes to bell peppers to this, that, and other thing. You go to some of the local grocers and you see the same food going for a greater price than what you would find at Myers or Walmart. You see some of the same meats and everything else going for a greater price. So that creates like a food desert situation. You can't afford to get the cheap prices if you don't have transportation. You go to your local corner store, and beer, cigarettes, and lottery tickets don't necessarily make a nutritious diet.
No.
So
No.
I'm trying to get people to start doing community gardening. I'm trying to push for people to start doing gardening in their backyard. I'm trying to push for people to start doing some type of gardening that helps them get more nutritious eating. Those red hot Cheetos that you see these kids eating, I don't think that qualifies. So
Right. I like what I see out there, but you got a little bit of everything. What are food desserts?
food deserts.
Food deserts.
Well, food deserts are like what I'm talking about. In a lot of urban areas, you come across places where it's almost impossible to find healthy, fresh food at a reasonable price. Right now, the market is not sustaining that in Flint. It would be great if Myers or Walmart put something right smack dead in the middle of Flint where they could sell things at a reasonable price. But because of the nature of economics and capitalism and all this other stuff, you don't find Myers in the middle of Flint. You don't find Walmarts in the middle of Flint. You find them out on the suburbs and the outskirts of places. It's kind of funny that the poorest people can't afford to live in the areas where you get the best prices. It's kind of a weird economic situation. So you wind up with these food deserts where you can't get the same diversity of foods as you can get in certain suburban or rural areas. So you wind up with a food desert where you can only find apples. You can't find peaches and nectarines in your local grocer or inside your local grocery store. We do have a farmer's market, but if you can't make it to the farmer's market on certain days, or if you don't have transportation, or if you're not able to cart as much as you want to, then you're getting kind of a troubling situation. For the average mother that might work a full-time job, have to pick up the kids, do this, that, and other thing, then the option of trying to go, well, let me stop off at the farmer's market in between working this job and that job and picking up kids from school and this, that, and other thing. It's kind of an unreasonable demand.
Right. So, wouldn't you say that it was designed that way for poor people not to be able to get to those places?
I would say that historically, poor people, people with more melanin in their skin have always found themselves in these type of situations, and in situations where there's a lack of resources. Mm-hmm. This isn't the first time in history where this has happened, and it just seems like this is history repeating itself. Yes. It's happened before, and it's happening again, whether we find ourselves working for the company store, or whether we find ourselves in a situation where resources are lacking compared to other people. It's just history repeating itself, but there is a solution here. We can start growing our own food. Right. We have this coronavirus going on, and there are food shortages right now. You can't go certain stores you can go to. There's no flour, mm-hmm. and that was kind of shocking that there's no flour at certain stores. There's no certain things are coming up missing, as far as what you would want and what you would want to demand. So I think it's a great opportunity for people to start looking towards growing their own foods and so forth. Right now, it'd be a great time to start buying seeds, because we don't know how long this crisis is going to last. Right. Be a great time right now to buy seeds, start planting your own tomatoes, your own bell peppers, just that other thing. You have every other month you're hearing about lettuce being contaminated with salmonella, mm-hmm. or with this kind of virus or this kind of bug. Start growing your own lettuce. Start growing your own tomatoes. You know exactly what's on them. You don't got to worry about the wrong fertilizer or the wrong kind of pesticide being used on it if you grow your own stuff. So I'm pushing for people to start growing their own stuff and start moving back towards some of the ways that we might have used maybe 100 years ago. Right, right. This gentleman on Dartmouth, on Dayton, it's Dartmouth Street. He was an older gentleman. He passed away, but he had garden all the way around his house. Is that Mr. King or? I don't know. Okay. But he died, mm-hmm. and now they're growing grass around there. I'm seriously thinking about growing a garden in my backyard rather than growing that grass. Try to grow that grass. Mm-hmm. So that's what I think I'm gonna do it this year. So. Well, there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of different resources in Flint that will help you support that. You have Edible Flint, and you have the Master Gardeners program that will provide you with seed, that will actually provide you with starter plants, and at a nominal cost provide you with a lot of other resources like bags of soil and different things. You can easily get in contact with Edible Flint. I don't have their number off the top of my head, but if you Google Edible Flint, they'll get you starter plants, and coming up soon in April, a lot of these things will be available. Genesee Conservation District right now is having a tree sale, strawberry plant sales, and a lot of other things going on. So the idea of backyard gardening, even if it's just like I'm just going to grow me a couple of tomato plants so I can have my own aromas, it saves you a lot of money, and there's a lot of personal enjoyment and satisfaction that comes from it. You get a little woo-saw from like, hey, I grew that. And if you got kids, it's like, hey, it gives them a good personal experience also. My brother-in-law and my mother in Edison, Georgia, they have a big garden every year, and she gives away a lot of stuff. Give away them okra. She has an abundance of okra, mm-hmm. And she's they enjoy doing it. They enjoy doing it. What is holistic? Holistic. Well, my wife and I are trying to adopt a type of lifestyle that is more holistic, where everything kind of fits together. We usually fall into a Western lifestyle where we say, okay, there's something wrong with your knee. Mm-hmm. We're just going to focus in on your knee. Usually, if something's wrong with your knee, then you need to look at your ankle, your toe, and the rest of your body, and you also need to look at your back to see what's going on. When you take a holistic approach, you look at the whole body and see what's going on. Like, hey, I see what's wrong. Something's wrong with your shoe and everything else that's going on. When you take a holistic approach to your whole lifestyle, you see how everything fits in together, and you try and make everything work together in such a way that gardening works in with your exercise. When you're kneeling down and you're doing your stretches and you're eating certain types of food, everything functions and flows together. So instead of compartmentalizing your life and saying, this time is set aside for this time is set aside for that, you try and make things function and flow together. So you try and put your diet together with your living, and you put the farming in with your exercise, and you find yourself trying to say, hey, I can make all this work together. When I'm digging this hole, this is part of my exercise. And this is part of my meditation time when I'm doing this and this, that, and other thing. So you try and put everything together, and you try and make things function and work together.
What are you doing with the veterans? You and I both are veterans, and that's where I first met you at the Veterans Administration. Yes.
Well, I had an idea of trying to develop a triathlon. I'm what's considered a disabled vet, and I really don't like that word disabled vet.
No.
What I prefer is the concept of a re-abled vet.
Right.
And the concept of re-abled vet means that we might have lost our original function, but we can be able to be functional and capable in society with doing other things. What I would like to do, and what I'm in the process of doing right now, is building another greenhouse that I would like to dedicate to veterans, and have veterans coming in learning how to grow different types of plant, and working on building miniature greenhouses or miniature gardens for people inside the neighborhood to help address the food desert issue. I would also like to try and do a micro triathlon that would involve re-abled vets around the Flint Park Lake area, where instead of them swimming, we might use canoes, we might use bikes, and we might do a little jog. We might, do a little fun competition between the Marines and the Air Force and the Navy. You know the Marines are going to win anyway.
You first. You say you first.
First in. But going to the last one.
I have to come to your aid, though, with big guns and y'all children. Okay.
Well, the idea is to try and get, bring awareness to the food desert issue. Try and get people to try and start eating healthier. Try and give veterans something, disabled or re-abled vets, something constructive to do. Try and get people eating healthier. And try and get, people into gardening. So it's a win-win all the way around. Kind of a synergistic connection between the community, veterans, and people eating healthy.
I noticed a lot of our veterans, a lot of them, they would like to have something to do. They sit around, some of them, you see them sitting around different places. You see them sitting in the shopping centers and stuff like that. And I think that would be a great thing to do.
Well, the thing that I noticed is sometimes as a veteran, we get activated and we get told to go and do a certain thing, which is normally to do something like kill or do something that's negative, and we never get deactivated or debriefed to a point to say
deprogram.
Yeah, deprogram. Depending on what kind of boot camp you went through,
right,
to do something different. And I'm thinking that this might actually be some type of debriefing where you get to work with plants and try and get something to live. And you have to deal with the reality that in the real world it's not always yes or no. And sometimes you have to deal with a seed that doesn't come to fruition.
Right.
Sometimes those seeds come to fruition, sometimes that plant dies, sometimes that plant lives, but you also get to nurture something and get to see something live and grow and function. And there's a beauty and there's a reality to that. The real world doesn't always work on a push-button system. Plants don't always work by order or demand, but you sometimes just see that patience and that nature inside that greenhouse to see things grow. It has a calming effect, and it has a beauty to it. And I think that a lot of veterans might benefit from the peace that it offers. I know I have.
Yes. What is a permaculture?
Permaculture is a concept that a lot of people are trying to take credit for and writing a lot of books about, but Native Americans created this.
Right.
It's like the Three Sisters. You got the the corn, the beans. You got the corn, the string beans, and other things that work together synergistically to grow together. You might plant the corn there, and then you have the string beans, you have the squash working together and planted together, where each plant provides something to each other, and so that they can grow. The corn stalk might provide something for the beans to grow along. The beans might provide some type of nitrogen for the corn and for the squash to grow along. The squash leaf might provide shelter that provides extra moisture in the morning for that plant to have extra water. So these three plants work together. What I'm trying to do at Chess Frog Farms is develop a permaculture around the trees, where we have different types of herbs, whether it be mint or chives or onions or hot peppers, where we don't have to use pesticides or we don't have to use fertilizers around the trees in order to keep pests away or to keep other types of critters and other things away. By doing this, we wind up with an organic situation. We don't wind up with critters, and we don't wind up with weird stuff inside the food that might be cancerous or dangerous. You wind up finding out, oh, this fertilizer we've been using for the last 20 years causes cancer. Or this fertilizer, oh, why do the frogs have 3 eyes over here? Or why are the ducks growing an extra bill? So we try and use permaculture in order to develop a natural growing condition where herbs and other plants are used in order to combat some of the natural things that farmers do. In America, we have this thing called agriculture, but we always see a field, and it's a whole field of all wheat. But Mother Nature grows things. You see an apple tree or a cherry tree growing in Mother Nature. It's all these other diversity of plants growing all together to help that tree inside of a natural forest. So with permaculture, we're trying to recreate a natural forest, but we're trying to make it into an edible forest where everything is edible, but it also works synergistically together in order to create a natural edible forest.
Now, it was my understanding that before George Washington Carver, a lot of people was throwing peanuts to the hogs.
They were throwing peanuts to the hogs. They were doing a lot of other things. The peanut was not an appreciated thing before George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver is one of those American heroes that will not be appreciated. Actually, Henry Ford called George Washington Carver in, and a lot of people don't know this. Henry Ford and Thomas Edison both want to speak with George Washington Carver. You can look this up. You can Google it. They called him all the way up north. They called him from down south, brought him up here, and they wanted to talk with him about different things. It was kind of a, Henry Ford wants to talk to you, and Thomas Edison wants to talk to you. It's kind of a major thing because they want to pick his brain on what to do with different things and different concepts. But when George Washington Carver came up with the concept of crop rotation and using the peanut in order to restore certain things that were being sucked out of the soil, because they had been growing cotton for so many years, they had basically sucked all these nutrients out of the soil. That peanut was actually starting to put that nutrient back inside the soil. Using crop rotation in a certain way with other plants was starting to build that soil back up. A lot of farmers, black and white, were starting to attend some of his lectures on how to rebuild the soil and how to do certain things. A lot of people didn't know what to do. Well, what am I going to do with these peanuts? Well, what am I going to do with it? People say, hey, it's a great snack. They started using it at theirs. No, we can make peanut butter. We can make shaving cream. We can make all these other chemicals. We can make paint. He came out with a pamphlet, and he came up with a lot, like literally 100 different uses for the peanut, from paint, shaving cream, soaps, glue, different types of, not just peanut butter, but a lot of different uses on the farm and elsewhere that this peanut could be used for. So George Washington Carver was kind of like a savior in ways for the southern farmer.
I notice every time that Jimmy Carter really talks about things, he always mentions George Washington Carver in that peanut.
You know what? Jimmy Carter's like one of my hero presidents.
That
man is up in his 90s and falling off ladders and doing this, that, and other thing. He's still married to the same woman. You don't hear about him having done cocaine or anything else like that. And he's still out there building houses for people. Just because he was president, he's not done with his tour of duty. He's not done with his job. I have the utmost respect for that man, that president.
And I think that's the reason why God has kept him around, man.
Well, his tour of duty is not over.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I'm just Jimmy Carter's my man. That's right.
The rest of these presidents are out there chilling, doing golf, and doing all this stuff. Yeah, I don't ever think I've ever seen Jimmy Hendrix. I mean, I'm about to call him Jimi Hendrix. I don't think I've ever seen Jimmy Carter play a game of golf. I've seen him with a hammer in his hand.
Yeah, right. He go teach Sunday school.
Yeah, he teach Sunday school. I've seen him with a hammer. I've seen him do this, that, and other thing. I guess it's just a destiny for some people. Actually, when I came to Flint, that's what I came to do. I started a community center in Lansing called Village Summit. I was supposed to be coming here to relax, but I wound up starting a neighborhood organization called FROG, Friendly Residents Organized for Good, and wound up getting involved with trying to develop things around the area, around the Flint Park lake area, getting lights fixed and trying to get trees cut, and wound up getting involved again. So
I noticed, when you start planting plants around, there are other things that pop up. We was talking about worms there a minute.
Right.
Fishing worms.
It's an interconnectedness. It's like we talked about holistic. Everything you can't work on just one thing without it being connected to something else. Those worms help build that soil up. So you got healthy soil, you got healthy plants. You got healthy soil. It's got to have worms in it. You come across some soil and they don't have those nematodes and bacteria and worms in it, then that soil is not healthy.
Right. This is the world according to TC. You're listening to WFOV 92.1 LP FM, Flint, Michigan, the University and Auto City. We are on University Drive here, located on University Drive. And I would like, you got anything else you would like to talk about, sir?
I want to thank the people at NEH Neighborhood Engagement Hub, especially Miss Ashley and Miss Holly, for their support and help with starting neighborhood organizations. They are a great resource. They're located over there on MLK, just south of Pasadena, in the old bank building. They help people start neighborhood associations. So if you want to start something, do something positive in the area, make sure you get over there to the Neighborhood Engagement Hub. They will help you with that. And they also loan out tools if you want to try and clean up your neighborhood. Also, the people over there at the Asbury Park Church, great people. I want to thank Pastor McCatherine for the work he does. I love it when the preachers like Pastor Tommy and Pastor McCatherine actually work with the street people.
That's right. That's right. There's so many of them just like to ride and showcase.
Yeah, them
hands-on preachers. There are very few now. There are very few. I want to tell you, man, I really appreciate you being on the show, and I love what you're doing in that neighborhood.
Well, I got 100 trees coming in within the next month, and I would love to see some volunteers help me put them in the ground. If you want to dedicate a tree to somebody, memorialize somebody in the next month, you can get in contact with me. I'm on Facebook, Marcus Brown. Get in contact with me, and I'd appreciate the help.
And another thing you got out there, we have kids in that area too.
We got kids We got kids over there. I would really love to build a gazebo over there so I can bring the library over there to do a literacy program. I know right now with the coronavirus going on, a lot of people are staying away from each other. But when this passes by, we're still going to need resources over there, and we still need to take care of these kids. One resource we're going to need is to try and create a lunch program over there. We're going to need a gazebo or some type of structure over there to house that lunch program and to house a literacy program.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you also.
All right. WFOB 92.1 LP FM, Flint, Michigan. Join us again next Friday night at 8 o'clock sharp.
Tell them you need kids. You need kids.
Always need kids over there. Yeah. Always need help over there.
We're gonna have.
I'm sitting here with the original TC.
we're gonna get some kids on this show too, because I want to know just exactly what they're thinking and how they look at us.
20 seconds.
the elderly, you know, the older people.
Well, I think it would be great to get their perspective on a lot of different things, especially what's going on in Flint right now.
That's right.
And I don't think we hear enough from them.
Right. Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Brother,
service.
thank you for your service too, sir. All right.